everyone, and welcome to the second race weekend of the DTM season 2022. We are here at the Lausitzring. We've got plenty of sunshine. We've got spectators here as well. And so far, the season has been so exciting. Only 3 races till now, but we've got 3 different race winners each time. And the man who won yesterday's race is Sheldon van der Linde. He's already sitting in the car. He is focusing, but he is already in psyched because obviously after a victory, he's so thrilled and so motivated to maybe even repeat that again today. But till then, it's a long, long way because now, first of all, we're going to get qualifying. So enjoy, and here's your commentator.
Thanks very much, Verena. Yeah, there, yesterday's race winner, his first win of the season, his first win since his maiden victory 2 years ago at Assen. Long, long overdue, and everybody, I think, very happy to see the result for Sheldon van der Linde, except maybe this man, Lucas Auer, who was the driver that had picked him to pole position yesterday by just 25 thousandths of a second. So Sheldon van der Linde in the win yesterday, Lucas Stoltz coming home in second place, and Lucas Auer, the driver that we saw there, in third place. There's one of his teammates at Team Winward, David Schumacher, who was one of 10 retirements yesterday, all of them coming, or most of them coming in the second half of the race. Lucas Stoltz there, excellent job again to get his second place finish of the season, and great drive from that man, Arjun Maini, 4th place yesterday. So Arjun with his second best finish so far in DTM, as this 20-minute session gets underway then to set the grid for race 2 here, round 4 of DTM 2022 coming up in just a few hours' time. My name's Chris Hartley. I'll talk you through all the action, and let's see if it's as close as yesterday, where the top 21 cars were covered by less than a second in qualifying. Weather conditions, as Verena said, absolutely perfect today. It's just about 17 degrees. Track temperature already pretty high at 33 degrees. There's a breeze rather than wind today. And yeah, it got pretty cold in the race yesterday. And we had that rain as well, just for about 5 minutes or so in the middle of the race. Everybody on slick tyres. I spoke to Uli Fritz, the team principal at HRT, after the race yesterday. And he said, you know, it was never wet tyres, it was never that wet, he said, but we were getting a little bit anxious looking at the weather radar when it did start to get quite heavy for a minute or two, and you start to second guess the weather radar and wonder if it's accurate, and they did get a little bit edgy for just a short time, but then the rain quickly passed. So but one thing that Uli said is it's pretty much been different track conditions every time they've gone out in free practice 1, free practice 2. Qualifying of the race yesterday, we've had varying temperatures, varying wind. We had the overnight rain as well between what was a very hot free practice 2 on Friday into qualifying on Saturday morning. And he said, you know, lots of teams have been here testing over the last week or so. We haven't, HRT haven't, he said, so maybe it hasn't really helped them because you've got all these different track conditions. But that said, they've got the data to suit the cars, set the cars up for whatever track temperature we do get. But as I say, it's just about perfect now. Dennis Olsen was another retiree yesterday, carried on in the race, but he went off the road on lap 1, took a wide line onto the grass. Mirko Bortolotti lost the championship lead, but was very satisfied with his 6th place finish, having come from 9th on the grid to add to the 2 third places he got at Portimao.
Prepare a lap, and they will monitor for blocking other cars, so we have to be a bit careful there with the traffic and your new tire run at least.
Team radio for Felipe Fraga.
Okay. Yeah.
26-year-old from Jacaranda in Brazil, new to DTM this year, an LMP3 class winner at Daytona at the start of the year, and runner-up in the GTE AM Class Championship at Le Mans last year as well, amongst his credits. Haug there watching on, saw him coming into the circuit on a scooter this morning, the former Mercedes boss, and it looks like Nico Muller is going to come out for the first part of the session this time. If you were watching yesterday, you'll have seen that Nico Muller in that Team Rosberg Audi didn't come out for the first 2/3 of qualifying, only came out for the last 10 minutes. He said we just didn't quite hook the lap together in qualifying, but I'm going to take that risk again. That vibration was what caused Nico Muller's retirement in the end. He was the last to pit, and actually he'd just gotten past the closure of the pit window, so the team made the decision to call it a day, try and save the tyres. That was very much the case for Kelvin van der Linde, who was also involved in contact on lap 1. from 18th on the grid, went through the gravel trap and wasn't able to fire his way back up through the order. So in the end, they decided to look after the tyres, of which they are restricted in terms of the number of slick Michelin tyres they get over the course of a weekend. It's just 4 sets, one of which has to be used in free practice. So you only have 3 brand new sets of tyres to last 2 qualifyings and 2 races. So that was what Kelvin van der Linde pulled off. We saw Felipe Fraga and heard from him on the team radio. It transpires it was a right rear puncture that put the Ferrari out of the race yesterday. That was a problem with the wheel for Marco Vittman. Go, Nico, go. That was a problem for the wheel for Marco Vittman after the pit stop. There he is, just in front of you, Marco. He's had a difficult start to the season. Difficult finish to the 2021 season as well for a driver that'll be absolutely aspiring to get a 3rd championship title here. But we know that BMW has got pace around here. There's been some slight tweaks to the BOP overnight. The Audis have become lighter, so 15 kilograms of BOP ballast on the cars on the Audis reduced to 5, so they've gone from 15 to 5. BMWs have actually had weight reduced as well from 10 to 0, but their boost has been reduced. Ferrari stayed the same. Lamborghini have lost 10 kilograms. There's Ricardo Feller, who had a puncture yesterday as well. That put him out of the race. Looks like he's not going anywhere yet in qualifying. Going to try the Nico Muller tactic from yesterday and go out in the second half of qualifying. So the Lamborghinis have gone from 15 kilograms of success ballast to 5. No change for Porsches, and a slight increase for the Mercedes. They've gone from 20 kilograms of BOP ballast to 25. The top 3 finishers from yesterday's race will carry success ballast in race 2, including that man Lucas Auer. So Sheldon van der Linde in the race will have 25 kilograms of success ballast for his race victory. Lucas Stolz will have 15 kilograms of success ballast for finishing second yesterday, and Lucas Auer, that man there, will see 5 kilograms of success ballast added to his car for the race, but that's only for the race, not in qualifying. In qualifying, the success ballast is not added to the cars. Philip Eng just coming through shot there in the Schubert Motorsport BMW. Spoke to him after the race yesterday about what was a mega start. I said, you had a great start. I thought you were going to be 3rd or 4th through turn 1. He said, yes, so did I. He said, but I just couldn't find a way through. There was no opening for me. So in the end, it didn't really work out, but he made a great start. And he too, like Nico Muller, was suffering with a vibration at the back of the car, which is why he retired. So there is yesterday's race winner, Sheldon van der Linde, who has moved up to 3rd place in the championship standings now. In the Drivers' Championship after yesterday, Lucas Auer, by 1 point, is the championship leader on 44. 43 points for Mirko Bortolotti, and then 38 points, 3rd place for Sheldon van der Linde. 37 for Lucas Stolz in 4th. Still on 28, Nico Muller in 5th. Still on 20 in 6th place, Felipe Fraga. And we've only had Mirko Bortolotti, Sheldon van der Linde, Laurens van Toor, Maro Engel, and that's it in terms of the drivers that have finished on the podium 3 times out of finished in the points 3 times out of 3. So only Bortolotti in 2nd, van der Linde in 3rd, Sheldon van der Linde, that is, Van Toor in 8th place, and Maro Engel in 9th place. Just those 4 drivers have scored points in all 3 races. Of course, you can argue Nick Cassidy has got a 100% record of points finishes because he's only had 1 race, wasn't at Portimao, and got into 9th position yesterday after a wild ride over the grass for the reigning champion, Maximilian Gutz. So the time starting to build on this next lap, and in terms of the times that we saw yesterday, Lucas Auer, 1 minute 30.654 was yesterday's pole time, so 1 minute 30.654. And we had the top 6 yesterday beneath the 1 minute 31 bracket. So we'll see how they get on in this session. René Rast then is going for his first flying lap here, trying to improve upon the 10th place which he got yesterday. But expect the Audis to be a bit more punchy today with some of that BOP weight having been removed from the Audis, who struggled thus far, certainly qualifying and the race yesterday. Esteban Moot, who was just outside the points yesterday, has set the absolute best first sector time so far. The Volkenhorst BMW's done a 19.6 through that first turn. Replay of a slightly scraggy moment there for the 3-time champion René Rast. A bit too wide on the exit and kicking up the gravel. We lost him a little bit of time, not too much, but when he'd done the tyres a great deal of good either. Marco Vittman now sets the absolute best first sector time. René Rast's posted the first competitive time of the session with a 1:32.157. But we're going to go much quicker than that in this session, and Marco Vittman looks like he might be the first one to get into the 1:31s. Kelvin van der Linde for now, and Michael Grenier second and third. Esteban Moot goes behind Tommy Preining for 5th place, Preining 4th, 5th place for Moot, but it all changes now because Eng goes through, and that's a 1:32.086. I'm watching Marco Vittman, who I think is going to be the first one into the 1:31s on his first flying lap. And then we've got Dennis Olsen to watch for as well. Dennis a couple of tenths down on Marco through the first sector, but a couple of tenths up on him in the second. So Dennis Olsen in the SSR Performance Porsche looking good at the moment. Marco is going to go quickest, I think, but Dennis Olsen might just pip him if he has a good final sector. Vittman crosses the line, through he goes, and sure enough he's the first into the 1:31s, 1:31.753. But what about this man, Dennis Olsen, the Norwegian, coming out of turn 10 now, going up through the gears, up to 5th gear, and over the line he will go at something like 250 kilometres an hour, and 1:31.42 goes to the top of the times. So 1:31.4, that's still 0.8 of a second away from yesterday's pole time, but we don't know what the track is going to be like comparative to yesterday. It's a living, breathing thing, and what worked yesterday might not work today. Good lap from David Schumacher, 1:31.8. There he is going into turn 1, powered by Auto Hero, with 3rd place now for the Team Winwood Mercedes, 1:31.806. Marco Vittman going even quicker. Look, on the first sector split, 19.4, the best we've seen so far. And Sheldon van der Linde was only just 0.05 of a second slower than that on his first sector. So Sheldon's going to cross the line very shortly, and he might just be about to go to the top of the times provisionally the first half of this session. Marco Vittman's going to be very close, and Nick Cassidy lost a little bit of time in the second sector, although his first sector was very good. And Dennis Olsen's on another push lap, absolute best in the second sector. So it's Olsen, Vittman, Schumacher, the top 3 as it stands. Sheldon van der Linde bailed for the pit, so it was looking like a good lap, but he went into the pits, so didn't complete the lap. So here we go for Marco Vittman, who is going to do a 1:31.83. Very consistent lap times. That's within 1/10 of his best, but he stays in second place. Dennis Olsen, though, could be about to put himself onto provisional pole by a maybe greater margin than previously. Nico Muller's just gone 3rd, by the way, over the line. No, Dennis Olsen slow through the final sector and doesn't improve the lap, even though it started well for the first 2/3. So Olsen going well. No BOP changes to the Porsches overnight. So Dennis Olsen looking to carry on the good form that he showed in free practice on Friday. And that's 193 mile an hour Porsche 911 GT3. He's 25 years old, from Valais, which is to the east side of Norway. Winner at Bathurst a couple of years ago, the Bathurst 12 Hours. He's won the Kailami 9-hour race. He's been a Porsche Carrera Cup champion. Raced in the Porsche Super Cup as well. Was runner-up to Michael Muller in that. So very strong CV, as is the case for a lot of the drivers. Nico Muller is about a 1,500ths down on the first sector, absolute best time. But it's the second and third sectors, the infield section, that really count. And Nico Muller puts in the absolute best second sector time. So he's 3rd quickest at the moment. His best laps are 1:31.764. He's only 11,000ths of a second away from Marco Vittman's second place time, but he needs to find 0.3 of a second to match the Porsche of Dennis Olsen, who's looking for an historic pole position here. Never had a Porsche on pole in DTM. But what about this Audi? Looking good for Nico Muller. I'm certain he's going to get on the front row with this. Can he get pole position? Over the line he comes. Yes, he can.
Nico, box.
1:31.297 for Nico Muller.
Give me an update, please, on the situation. Yeah, I think I need to do quicker warm-up and push after one warm-up.
Copy that, we are P1, best out is René, 31.9. We need to improve sector 1 to improve.
Yeah, sector 1 is where the Audi of Nico Muller, the Rosberg Audi, is just lacked a little bit compared to some of the other cars, but he's more than made it up in the infield sections. But he loses 1.5 through that first sector, which is the shortest sector, and he really takes in turn 1 and ends before you get to turn 2. So it's just the banked section, and that super quick left-hander, which they take mid-corner at 230, 235 kilometers an hour.
It's just in slow speed. We have a little tendency of understeer. But the problem is, if we add up a bit more front, I'm worried that if we give it more front, we will struggle more in turn 5, because it's not easy there. It's quite loose.
Yeah, copy that. We'll just go for new tires, and then we go out like this.
So turn 5, where Dennis Olsen says that he's struggling. So as they come off the tri-oval, they go left through turn 2, straight into the right at turn 3, then a hairpin left at turn 4. It's the next hairpin after that, at the end of the first link straight in the middle of the lap, turn 5, where he's struggling. And it's the exit to that corner critical, as you then run down the back straight down towards turn 6. Super slow-mos then of the driver on provisional pole position at the moment, Nico Muller. And he qualified 14th yesterday, 1 minute 31.297 seconds. At the moment, the lap time much slower than we saw yesterday, a 1:30.6. We're more than half a second away from that as it stands. But a different day, different track conditions. Still, though, is the question as to whether we're going to get a little bit more pace out there. As Verena said, we've had 3 races, 3 different winners so far this season. We've also had 3 different pole sitters. Mirko Bortolotti in the Grasser Racing Team Lamborghini was on pole position for the first race at Portimao. Nico Muller got pole for race 2, and Lucas Auer was on pole position yesterday. There is Mirko Bortolotti, cheering on his beloved AC Milan later on. And there he is, the driver that is right behind him now in the championship fight. Bortolotti and Sheldon van der Linde, 2nd and 3rd in the points respectively, just behind Lucas Auer. So we've got just under 8 minutes to go. Nico Muller is the one that set the benchmark time. He's 0.12 seconds clear of Dennis Olsen. Marco Vittman is 3rd. David Schumacher, excellent at the moment, in 4th place. René Rast 5th. Philippe Eng in 6th. Michael Grenier 7th. And then the Van der Lindes together at the moment. Kelvin is 8th. Sheldon is 9th. There's only 41 thousandths of a second between them. In qualifying 1 last year, there was 27 thousandths of a second between the 2 brothers, with Sheldon just grabbing the pole position. Tommy Preining is in the top 10 as well. Another one that retired yesterday when he was running in the points. Esteban Moot 11th. Lucas Stoltz back in 12th place. And then we've got Dev Gore 13th. Maximilian Gotz, the reigning champion, 14th. Max Buch 15th. Lawrence Van Teur in the other SSR Performance Porsche. His teammate's 2nd, but he's only 16th at the moment. And Nick Cassidy is the highest placed Ferrari in 17th position. They've struggled so far here at the Lausitzring. His teammate, Felipe Fraga, hasn't yet completed a lap. We know Ricardo Feller was opting for the late run tactic. It's a risk because, as we see the huge swathe of support that we've got for the Van der Linde brothers, which is a plenty here at the Lausitzring, it's a risk because if you get held up for traffic or you make one mistake on one lap, you don't give yourself much margin for error. So save your tyres, sure, but you give yourself less chance to get up near the front of the grid. So Feller, Auer, Bortolotti and Fraga have yet to post a lap time in the session. Bortolotti did something similar at Portimao, and it did work out for him pretty well. So they've got to make the most of this now. It looks like you can get at least 2 good laps out of the tyres from what we've seen so far in qualifying yesterday, and possibly a 3rd. And it's all about how you warm the tyres up on your out laps and your build-up lap, as Nico Muller was saying on the team radio in the Team Rosberg Audi. So just under 6 minutes to go. You can see they build the tyre temperature up pretty carefully. So everybody back out on track now, and it'll be on the next lap they start to really fight and punch and go for the lap times. At this stage, what they're trying to do is make sure they get enough clear track in front of them that they're not going to get held up anywhere. Certainly not on their first push lap. Should be enough space for everybody, but they're all out on track at the same time, and there are 29 cars. Much more room, though, than there was at Portimao, and certainly quite a few drivers suffered with not being able to get a lap in by being held up by traffic at one point or another. Bortolotti is under investigation for pit lane speeding. which will result in a fine if that's the case. We've had a couple of drivers that have suffered penalty fines for being just a couple of kilometres over the pit lane speed limit of 60 kilometres an hour. Right, Kelvin van der Linde looking to push on at the moment, much better place than he was yesterday, 18th on the grid. That's when you get in trouble, when you're bang in the middle of the pack and incidents can happen. Tight run through the infield section on lap 1 once they get off the tri-oval. It's a tight squeeze. He was a bit unlucky yesterday, so want to be higher up the grid if you can. And Nico Muller looks like he's about to pull the trigger then as we ride on boards with Nico Muller, a driver that came into the weekend second in the championship but has slipped back now due to failing to score points yesterday. Remember, 3 points for pole, 2 points for second, and a point for third. And Felipe Fraga's Ferrari on fire. He gets out very rapidly, thank goodness. And the back of the car completely up in smoke. So his weekend goes from bad to worse, and unsurprisingly, the red flags are going to come out. The session is going to be stopped. Well, absolutely dramatic stuff for the Ferrari. That is just on the way into turn 8, the final sector. Come on, he says. Come on, try to help him out. Get that fire extinguisher. We need to get this fire out to give me any chance of getting the car salvaged for the race later on today. Remember, Felipe hadn't set a lap in the session, so he's absolutely plumb last at the moment. But at AF Corsa, they watch on. Look at that. He's helping them out. Fantastic thought here from Felipe Fraga. Go on, give it me. I'll do it. I'll put it out, he says. There you go. So keen is he to limit the amount of damage that we've got. But that was a big old fire. Really serious. And the marshals, they're helping out now. But Felipe doing a great job here. It's a future in volunteer marshalling, I think, for the Brazilian. If he hangs up his race helmet one day. Very quick to react. So, well, the main thing is he got out very quickly and realised what was going on, and he's absolutely fine, and even had the foresight to put the car off the road and out of the way. But I was looking out of the commentary box window. There is a huge cloud of smoke coming out from that part of the course. And Felipe's car has stopped just on the exit to turn 7, just before you get to turn 8. Wow, drama here then in the second qualifying session of the weekend at the Lausitzring. And the race start at 1:30 this afternoon, which is in just over 3 hours' time. They've got to get that car back to the garage, strip it down, try and work out the problem and replace it. So there's going to be an exceptionally busy time. It's 3 hours to the race start, but the cars generally have to go on the grid just about half an hour before that. So you're only looking at less than 2.5 hours for them to try and get that car sorted. Still flaming up as well, though. Even though we've got a ton of marshals on it now with a ton of fire extinguishers, it's a very difficult fire to put out, and the longer this goes on, the more and more damage, of course, there is to the engine, the systems, the fuel systems. Oh, massive shame for Felipe Fraga. He was going well in the race yesterday up until he picked up that right rear puncture that put him out late on. Been a weekend to forget after what was a pretty impressive weekend on his debut at Portimao. Felipe still helping out. Really impressed with the way he got on with that and helped them out, and knew exactly where to aim the fire extinguisher. So it looks like it's starting to come under control now. Session stopped. 4 minutes 4 seconds left on the clock. Obviously, this is awful news for Red Bull AF Corsa, for Felipe Fraga. It's also not great news for Ricardo Feller, Lucas Auer, Mirko Bortolotti, who've yet to set a lap time in the session. There's only 4 minutes 4 seconds left on the clock. They've got to do an out lap and maybe a build-up lap to get the tyres up to temperature. They are going to be lucky to get one flying lap in here, those drivers. Plus, you don't know what everybody else is going to do in terms of improving their own lap times. Here's a super slow-mo replay. Complete fireball, wasn't it, at the back of the car? Felipe saw it in the mirrors. You see him looking in the mirror, look, and pulls it off the circuit. Very quick reactions to do that, to get it out of harm's way. And what he's also trying to do is not just get it off the track, but park it as close as he can to a marshal point, knowing that they've got the fire extinguishers. And that was the reaction in the garage at AF Corsa. And that's what it looked like from the onboard. That's the sound as he parked it in the gravel, undid the belts, and hopped out very quickly indeed. Well, disaster for the team, and question mark as to whether they're going to be able to get that car out for the race now. It'd be a miracle if they can, but these teams are brilliant, and they can work miracles. They can turn things around in unbelievable amounts of time. So we'll try and find out what the cause of that was and give you an update before the race as to how much the chances are of the car being out there and what kind of state it's going to be in. But the best situation is that it will be stone last, 29th on the grid. And that's Felipe the Marshal. Give me the fire extinguisher, I'll sort it out, he says. Not sure what the Marshal would have thought about that, because they're obviously well trained in doing this themselves. But they worked together as a team in the end. Marshal released it. And Felipe, who was obviously a very fit young man, was able to get over there quickly. And then he got another fire extinguisher, sorted that one out, and helped the team with that as well. Right onto the fuel intake, wasn't it? But as I say, absolutely the key thing is that he was able to get out of that very quickly. Very calmly, but very quickly. And that was the cloud of smoke I was talking about, you can see from the aerial shot, which is now dissipated. So a drama here, which has stopped the second qualifying session in DTM. I think we can get some reaction now down in the pit lane with Verena.
I'm here with Ron Reichert, and obviously the pictures were very, very scary. We didn't see what exactly happened. All of a sudden, the car was on fire. Can you tell us what happened?
We don't know that much more compared to you guys. I mean, we have the same picture. We had Felipe coming on the radio that something is wrong, and the next picture we saw was fire. So most important, Felipe got out. He did the best he could to save the car. He immediately went to get a fire extinguisher, and I think he deserves a lot of respect for reacting like this in that moment, trying to save the car. But yeah, you never want to see your car on fire on TV, especially not in the qualifying.
Absolutely. All right, so we'll find out later probably what happened. Thank you so much for the moment, and luckily Felipe is all right, and hopefully you can save the car.
Yeah, we will try our best.
All right, thank you so much, and now of course we're waiting for the restart here of the qualifying. Back to you.
Oh, well done, Verena. Great to get the reaction, the thoughts there of Ron Reichert, the team principal at AF Corsa, and there Felipe on his way back, head down. I think there the stress starts to kick in a little bit, doesn't it? You're on adrenaline when it's happening. And yeah, we had something similar in the qualifying session, actually. It was as well in the first round of the British Touring Car Championship with Dan Camish. Very similar incident. And he did the same thing. He reacted really quickly. And it was kind of afterwards, once he got back to the pits, then the sort of realisation of what just happened kicked in, and he was, you know, shaking a bit and stressed out a little bit. And but at the time, just cool as a cucumber. These racing drivers. So I think Felipe now will reflect upon what was a pretty scary moment. But he did a fantastic job, didn't he? So, as we all say, that's the key thing. Car can be replaced, engines can be replaced, the driver is safe is the main thing, and it just, again, shows the great level of safety that we have in motorsport and in DTM these days, with all the equipment on board, all the gear that the drivers wear. So he's on his way back now, and the team, no idea yet as to what caused the problem, and as to the extent of the damage, they'll have to wait and find out. I mean, the fire extinguishant leaves its mark as well. So even the case of putting the fire out leaves its own problems with the extinguishant powder that's left all over the car, and there was a lot of it used. So one Ferrari down, I'm afraid, the other one back in 17th, and slightly nervous moments now for Ricardo Fella, Lucas Auer, who was on pole yesterday, and he's 27th at the moment, and Mirko Bortolotti, who've yet to set competitive lap times with, as it stands, just 4 minutes and 4 seconds left on the clock. No news as yet on the official screen as to when the session is going to get back underway, but looking at the commentary box window, the recovery team now there. So the flatbed truck is there, and they're looking to put that Ferrari onto the flatbed. Once it's on the flatbed, it won't take long to move away, actually, because it was pretty close to the pit lane entry. So I don't think it'll be too long before we get the session underway. And then it's going to be a mad dash, isn't it, to the end of the session. And for the drivers in the cars, or maybe some of them getting out of the cars now, I think they're looking down at the garages, all the cars in the garages, and I think all the drivers have stayed on board now rather than getting out, which is a good sign that it won't be too long before we get underway. But for them, they're now trying to reset themselves, refocus themselves, because they were either on a flying lap or about to go onto a flying lap in that session. Nico Muller had set the absolute best second sector time so far, and the absolute best third sector time has gone to Dennis Olsen behind him, which just makes the point about that infield section, the slower part of the course, being the most critical one in terms of lap time, because the driver that was quickest in the first sector was Nick Cassidy, but he's only 17th on the grid. So sectors 2 and 3, the ones you've really got to get right in the session. And as we get some more replays now of our excellent marshals doing their job with the great help of Felipe Fraga to put the fire out as quickly and as safely as possible. And thanks as ever to the marshalling team, all volunteer marshals, without whom none of us can go racing. We can't watch racing, the racing drivers can't do it. They are the eyes and ears of race control. They're the safety team that look after everybody. Incidents like that are where you really realise how indebted we are to all of our marshals around the world. So big thanks to them. And then you saw the reaction as Felipe Fraga, just once it was all over, just sort of the adrenaline flowed away, then just sort of realised, blimey, I'm going to take a moment here, because that was pretty scary, and just rested up against the tyre stack. And you saw him on the moped scooter ride on the way back to the pits, sort of catching his breath. So cars lined up now, most of them in the pit lane, some of them still in the garages. Sheldon van der Linde's car still in the garage, Lucas Auer's car, David Schumacher's car still in the garage, Maximilian Gutz's car is poked out of the garage. I can see Lucas Stoltz's car still in the garage as well. Arjun Maini, I think, likewise. But most of them in the queue, ready to go. And you'd be keen to be at the front of that queue, wouldn't you? Because if you're at the back of the queue, that might be another 10, 15, 20 seconds before you get onto the track. That might be the difference between one more lap in the session and just running out of time before the checkered flag comes out. It's tricky now, because they need to get on with the out lap, but also look after the tyres, not overheat them during the build-up lap. But it's 1 minute and 31 seconds to get around. That's from, you know, a flying start, so you're looking at more like 1 minute and 50 seconds, minute and 45 seconds maybe to get around from the pits from a standing start. 4 minutes 4 seconds left on the clock. You're only going to have, when they cross the line for the first time for the front runners, something like 2 minutes 20 seconds left on the clock. So if you're at the front of the queue, you'll get 2 laps in. But if you're at the back of the queue, or you're still in the garages, it might be a bit tight. And you wouldn't think that the tyres are going to be absolutely nailed on for that first flying lap. It'd be the second one. And also, they've used the tyres up a little bit because they've done their out laps. Some of them were on their first flying laps on the restart. So this is not ideal. Tap on the helmet for yesterday's race winner, Sheldon van der Linde. A racing family, obviously. Brother races. Dad was a touring car champion in South Africa. Granddad was a touring car champion in South Africa as well. Multiple champion. So can the brothers both have a good day? Because it always seems to be the case that one has a good day and one doesn't. And can we see both of them having success here? It'd be quite interesting if it stayed like this, because they're absolutely together on the grid at the moment, 8th and 9th. Right, green light, pit lane exit opens, and we're going to get the session back underway then. So the cars being released. There's Marco Vittman coming through. Clock ticks down, less than 4 minutes to go then. Nick Cassidy, the sole remaining Ferrari. Maro Engel, who started third yesterday, finished in 5th place. One of only 4 drivers to be in the points in all the races. Nicky Tim coming through, was outside of the points yesterday. Can he or Esme Orki get some points for T3 Motorsport, their home race? The team from Dresden, it's only about 50, 60 kilometres away from the racetrack. Out they all funnel then. And Sheldon van der Linde out of the garage now, coming down the pit lane. We've still got the driver that is sitting second in the timing. Dennis Olsen sat just outside the garage. Maximilian Gutz is going down the pit lane now, as you can see. David Schumacher, Lucas Auer, Dennis Olsen still waiting to go. interestingly. Thought they'd have been keen to get out there straight away. Now, Dennis Olsen is released. So Dennis Olsen out of the garage, Lucas Auer out of the garage. Is just, I think, David Schumacher that hasn't got going yet. And he's 4th quickest at the moment. Doing a fantastic job. Now he's released, so he is out. But it's a long, long way after everybody else. That is a minute and 25 seconds after the green flag before David Schumacher gets going again. That's pretty much a lap given away there. He's only going to get 1 crack at this. Schumacher leaves the pit lane now and heads out onto the circuit. Those that left the pit lane first are already coming up to turn 10 to begin their first 4 laps. In fact, over the line now comes Ricardo Feller. And he won't get any problems with David Schumacher coming out in front of him because he's still building up his speed coming out of the pit lane exit there. In the background is Ricardo Feller then, looking for his first lap of the session here with just 2 minutes 6 seconds left on the clock. So what can Ricardo Feller do? We'll keep an eye on his split times. But he'll get 2 laps. So he'll get back to the line in plenty of time. 19.6 through the first sector. Well, 19.4 is the best that we've had. And it's not the key sector, so that's pretty good for Ricardo. He was the best of the Audis yesterday, Ricardo Feller, qualifying in 8th place overall in that Evo 2 Audi R8. It's a V10 engine on that, 5.2 litres, just about 585 brake horsepower. A driver that was the ADAC GT Masters champion last year. Raced in the ADAC GT Masters Championship for a few years. He's raced in the IMSA Sports Car Championship. Raced in Formula 4 in Germany for a season with Peter Muka's team as well, Muka Motorsport. Still a young driver, just 21, Ricardo Feller. And very highly rated. 37.9 seconds through the second sector is pretty decent as well. Marco Vittman's done a 19.3 through sector 1. And Marco's 3rd quickest at the moment. And is pushing on. We know the BMW's capable around here after what we saw with Sheldon van der Linde yesterday. So Ricardo Feller gets to the line with 50 seconds to go. And straight away, that is impressive. 2nd place, 1 minute 31.42 from the word go. Well, the second sector looked good. He was down a bit in the first sector, but the final sector was mega as well. So he goes straight into 2nd place. Audi 1-2 at the moment, but what about Marco Vittman, who's now down to 4th place? Can he get up there? Because he's also looking good, a little bit quicker actually, 2/3 of the way around the lap than Ricardo Feller was. So we'll see if he can improve or not. Kelvin van der Linde has improved up to 7th place as well. And Nick Cassidy puts the Ferrari 2nd very, very briefly until Maro Engel crosses the line just behind him and goes even quicker. And Rennie Rast has gone onto the front row of the grid as well. Mirko Bortolotti up into the top 3. Every time somebody crosses the line, they go quicker. We've got 2 seconds left on the clock, but lots of them have got through to start another lap. So now the checkered flag comes out. Tommy Pryning crosses the line, and he's not going to improve or have a chance to improve after this. He's in 11th place, but he's the first one to see the checkered flag. Sheldon van der Linde is on his final flying lap as well, and he's looking good. 19.3 through the first sector, 37.96, only a tad down on the absolute best time through that second sector. He's down in 20th place at the moment. He's not going to stay there though. This should be more than good enough for a top 4 or 5, I think, if he holds the last sector together. And it's pole position, 1 minute 30.99, mega final sector there, the absolute best. That was what let him down a little bit yesterday when he went for pole, but he's nailed it. So Sheldon van der Linde goes fastest, and Ricardo Feller goes back onto the front row of the grid, which is a mighty effort. Maro Engel down to 3rd place. Rennie Rast is 4th. Bortolotti and Cassidy 5th and 6th, but Bortolotti is still out there and has done 2 personal best sector times and a really, really good second sector. It's not the absolute best, but 37.65. It almost matches the absolute best second sector time. In fact, I think it is the best sector time. Doesn't show on the graphic, but I think it is. So we could see Bortolotti coming up the order. Rennie Rast goes into the front row grid position as well. Rennie Rast goes up to 2nd place, and Bortolotti comes through now. Hadn't found any time at the end of the session. He improves a little bit to 4th place. But it's Sheldon van der Linde, Rennie Rast and Maro Engel, the top 3. Bortolotti 4th, Feller in 5th, Muller in 6th, Cassidy 7th, Stoltz in 8th, Auer in 9th, and Schumacher 10th. Wow. Thomas Biermeier, happy with his man.
We did it.
Rennie Rast.
Pole position.
Oh my God, guys. Holy shit. What a weekend, man. What a weekend. Can it get any better? Well done, boys. Goal was again on rails. This is amazing, honestly. Don't take it for granted.
It's really like a dream, mate. Really, really nice.
It's like a
We
dream.
need some pickup and save fuel.
Sheldon's
Just to remind.
a race engineer. Can it get any better, says Sheldon? Question mark. Well, maybe. Pole position. Let's see what he can do. 1 minute 30.998. The only driver to break the 131s. And it was the final sector where he did it. He absolutely nailed that run through turn 10. And René Rast as well. Back up there. Didn't take him long, did it? It wasn't a good weekend at Portimao. A bit of an average day by his standards yesterday. But René Rast up there now. The BOP helping out the Audis today. And Maro Engel coming home in 3rd place. Again, picks up another championship point for that. So Sheldon van der Linde gets the 3 points. René Rast gets 2. Maro Engel gets a point. Bortolotti up there again in the Lamborghini. He's looking very, very consistent, isn't he? Which is ominous for everybody else. Really impressive stuff from Ricardo Feller as well in the Ab Sportsline Audi to come home 5th with just 2 laps in the session effectively. The first of which actually put him onto the front row of the grid, didn't it, for a while? Relief as well for Lucas Auer was another one that hadn't put a lap time in. He ends up in 9th, which is not fantastic, but it could have been a lot worse. So a great effort by those drivers that left themselves with very little time to post a competitive lap time. So van der Linde, Sheldon van der Linde, René Rast, Maro Engel, top 3, Bortolotti 4th, Feller 5th, Muller in 6th, Cassidy 7th, Stolz in 8th, Auer 9th, Schumacher an excellent 10th, his best so far, Engen 11th, Vittman 12th, Olsen, who was, remember, up there halfway through, or more than halfway through the session. Dennis Olsen was up there on the front row of the grid. 13th place in the end. He couldn't improve for that last couple of minutes, so Dennis Olsen drops back to 13th position. Arjun Maini 14th, not as good as yesterday either. Kelvin van der Linde was another that plummeted down. He was 7th at one point. He's dropped down to 15th in the last minute or so of the session. Michael Grenier 16th, Lawrence Van Toor back in 17th. Tommy Preining went from, I think it was 11th to 18th because he couldn't quite get another lap in. He ran out of time. Maximilian Gutz, the champion, 19th on the grid. Esteban Moot 20th, Max Buch 21st, Niki Tim will start 22nd, Rolf Finishen 23rd, Clement Schmidt 24th, Dev Gore 25th, Marius Sugg 26th, Alicia Deleda 27th, Esme Hawkey 28th, and if he starts, if they can get the car repaired and out there, Felipe Fraga in the Red Bull AF Corsa Ferrari, he's going to start plumb last on the grid in 29th position. So 3rd career pole position for Sheldon van der Linde. And guess where his last pole position came? That's right, the Lausitzring last year. I think he likes this track. So many congratulations to him, and the 3-time champ René Rast will be very satisfied to see himself back on the front row of the grid. Back to the sort of form we saw him in when he was last competing the full season in DTM in the 2020 season. He took himself to the victory. There's Maro Engel doing a really good job, isn't he? He's looking very solid since he came back, and he's happy. Big smile, big thumbs up from Maro. And the Mercedes looking good. It's been a really good weekend so far for Gruppe M Racing. So the likeable German Maro Engel has been a GT winner on more than one occasion at the Great Macau Street Race, so he's used to driving very quickly, very close to walls. He won't mind turn 1, and he's done a great job here so far this weekend. So Sheldon van der Linde picks up 3 points. That's going to move him on to 41 points in the championship. So we'll now have Lucas Auer on 44, Mirko Bortolotti on 43, and Sheldon van der Linde still 3rd, but on 41. 3 points between the top 3 in the championship coming into this afternoon's race, which is going to be another 55-minute plus 1 lap race. Well, he's getting used to this, isn't he, Sheldon van der Linde? Can the weekend get any better? Let's not take it for granted, he said, but the team, Schubert Motorsport, have done a brilliant job, haven't they, with that car this weekend? It does look absolutely planted. Well done again, though, to Maro Engel. Equals his qualifying performance from yesterday. Also picks up another useful championship point. 2nd to René Rast, and 1st to Sheldon van der Linde. Let's get some reaction now, though, with Verena.
And I'm here with René Rast, and yesterday you were P8, today you're starting in P2, so finally you're back. So where are you going to go from there?
Yeah, finally back. I'm back. It feels very good to be in this spot at the moment. Obviously, the qualifying race is a different story. I hope we have the same pace in the race. Yesterday it didn't look so good, but yeah, hopefully we made some steps in setup. Yeah, race will be very interesting, so hopefully we can have a top 5 at least.
All right, well, crossing our fingers, is going to be exciting. Thank you so much, René. I'm going to try to grab, where is he? Maro Engel is right there, and Maro had a P3 yesterday on the podium and today starting in P3. So Maro, good job again. Yesterday you had a 3rd place. Do you think coming from P3 today, maybe you can top that?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I didn't have a great start yesterday, so that'll be the aim, to get a good start and try and put the guys ahead of me under pressure.
And what's it like? You're there in the middle of the qualifying, all of a sudden you hear, okay, it's stopped because of a fire. It's not a good feeling, right?
Yeah, seeing fire is never nice, but it was good to see. As soon as I came past, Felipe was out the car, you know, so I knew, okay, he's safe. But yeah, it's not what you want to see.
All right, well now let's concentrate on the race. Best of luck for later on. And yeah, the man who's in pole position is Sheldon van der Linde. We will talk to him later when we start the race. So let's look forward to an exciting race later on. And now here are the highlights of the qualifying. See you later.